Okay, good morning, everybody. On this wonderful Erev Shabbat, let's get right into it. Looks like it didn't let me go live. I don't know, but I think, oh no, it did go live, it looks like. Okay, good morning, everybody. Okay, let's start off. We're at the end over here of the book of Bereshis. We're ending up Genesis over here in the second to last portion, the sixth portion of Parshat Vayechi. Binyamin, this is Yaakov talking. Binyamin Zev Yitrof Babayker Yechal Ad V'la Erev Yechalik Shalal. Binyamin is a wolf. He will prey. In the morning he will devour plunder, and in the evening he will divide the spoil. Let's actually go to Rashi over here about Benjamin is a wolf. He is a wolf, for he will prey. He, Yaakov, prophesied that they were destined to be grabbers, and you shall grab for yourself each man his wife, as it says in the episode of a concubine who happened to be in Gibeah. This was a tragedy story that took place. And he prophesied about Shaul, that he would be victorious over his enemies all around. As it is said, and Shaul took the kingdom, and he waged war against Moab and against the children of Ammon and against Edom, etc. Wherever he turned, he caused them to tremble. In the morning, he will devour plunder. Ad is an expression of plunder and spoil, translated in Aramaic as Ada. We see another example of this as Ad Shalal, then plundered, the booty were divided. The plunder and booty were divided. He, Jacob, is referred to Shaul, who arose at the beginning of the morning. Okay. And in the evening, he will divide the spoil, even when the sun will set for Israel through Nebuchadnezzar in the Babylonian exile. He, Binyamin, will divide the spoil. Mordechai and Esther, who were of the tribe of Binyamin, will divide the spoils of Haman. Onkelos, however, rendered it as regarding the spoils of the priests, the holy things of the temple, namely the priests' share of the sacrifices. Okay, Kol Ele, these are the 12 tribes. Shiftei Yisrael, Shnemas are 12 of them. V'zois asher dibur lehem aviem, and this is what their father spoke to them. Vayivarach haisam, and he blessed them. Ish asher kivirchas sai beirach haisam, each man according to his blessing he blessed them. I don't know if you guys could hear in the background, but there's a little bit of construction happening here at Chabad, but hopefully it doesn't affect the sound. And this is what their father spoke to them and blessed them. Let's look at Rashi. Now, is it not so that some of them he did not bless, but in fact he gave them a little bit of chiding? Rather, this is what is intended, and this is what their father spoke to them, what is related to this section. One might think that he did not bless Reuben, Shimon, and Levi. Therefore, the pasuk says, and he blessed them, meaning all of them. Sometimes it doesn't seem like Yaakov was giving a bracha, but really all of it was brachas, and all of them were blessings to each of them. It says, the pasuk should have said, each man according to his blessing, he blessed them. Why does the pasuk say he blessed them? It says each, it should have said he blessed him, each one according to his blessing, he blessed him. Why does it say he blessed them? Since Jacob bestowed upon Yehuda the might of a lion, and upon Binyamin the power and size, and power to seize like a wolf, and upon Naphtali the fleetness of a gazelle, I might think that he did not include all of them in all the blessings. Therefore, the pasuk says he blessed them. It's not each of the brachas really also apply, at least to an extent, to each of the 12 shvatim. Vayitzav vayisam, and he commanded them. Vayomer alim, and he said to them, Ani ne'asaf im ami, I will be brought to my people. Kivru aisi, elavaisi, bury me with my fathers. El Hama'ora Asher B'stei Ephron Hachiti, in the cave that is in the field of Ephron Hachiti at the Ma'ara Samachpela. V'Ma'ara Asher B'stei Machpela, in the cave that is in the field of Machpela, Asher Al Pnei Mamre, which is at Mamre, Be'eretz Canaan, in the land of Canaan, Asher Kna Avram, which Avram had bought. As Asada, this field, Me'es Ephron Hachiti Lachuzas cover, he bought it from Ephron Hachiti to be a burial property. So Shama cover with Avram Ves, Sarah, Ishtai. There they buried Abraham and Sarah, his wife. Shama cover with Yitzchak Ves Rivka, Ishtai. There Yitzchak and Rivka were buried. V'Shama kavarti es Leah, and there I buried Leah. Miknei Asada, the purchase of the field, the Hama'ara, and the cave Asher Bai that is within it, Me'es b'nei Ches, was from the sons of Ches. Vayichal Yaakov, Letzavi says Banov, and Yaakov finished giving commands to his children. Vayesef Raglov, and he drew his legs up onto the bed, Alamita on the bed. Vayigva, Vayosef Al Amav, he expired and was brought into his people. Let's look at Rashi. And expired and was brought in, but no mention is made of death in this regard. And our rabbis of blessed memory said, our father Jacob did not die. It says, V'amar Rabbi Yaakov Avinu lo yimes. And there's a famous interpretation of this, that Ma zare b'chaim, af hu b'chaim, that when his children continued his legacy, continued his way of life. Remember, Yaakov is the only one of the forefathers that had mitasei shlema, that his entire descendants had followed in the way of Hashem, as opposed to Avram with Yishmael and Yitzchak with Esav. So when your children and your legacy continue in living in the life that you showed them, that's what it means to live forever. All right, chapter 50. Vayipol Yosef al pnei aviv vayev alav vayishak lo. Yosef fell on his father's face. He cried and he kissed him. Vayitzav Yosef es avodav es refoyim lachmeit es aviv. And Yosef commanded his servants, the physicians, to embalm his father. Vayachnetu haroifim es Yisrael, and the physicians embalmed Yaakov. To embalm his father, this involves compounding aromatic spices. Vayimlu loy arba'im yom, and for 40 days. Vayimlu loy arba'im yom ki kain yimlu yimei hachanutim, and for 40 days were completed for him, for so are the days of embalming. Vayivku oisei Mitzrayim shivim yamim, and the Egyptians wept over him for 70 days. Vayimlu, they completed, let's look at the Rashi, they completed for him the days of his embalming, when 40 days were completed for him. Basically, it takes 40 days to do this process. 40 days for embalming and 30 for weeping, because a blessing had come to them when he arrived. The famine ended and the waters of the Nile increased. This is explaining why did all of the Egyptians weep for Yaakov? Like, why did they care? Because actually, when Yaakov came, that's when the famine ended. Vayavru yimei b'chisai, vayidaber Yosef al beis parei lemar. When the days of the weeping had passed, when 70 days had passed, Yosef spoke to Pharaoh's household, and he said, if I have now found favor in your eyes, speak now in Paro's ear, saying, Avi Yishpa'ani Lemar, my father made me swear, saying, Hine anechi mes b'kivri asher karisili be'eretz Canaan shama tivkareni ba'ata elona be'ekparas avi v'ashuva. Behold, I'm going to die in my grave, which I dug for myself in the land of Canaan. There you shall bury me. So now, the Ata, now he's there, he was quoting. Now, Please let me go up and bury my father and return. He's saying, I'm not going for good. I'm just going to go. I'm going to bury Yaakov and come back to Egypt. Vayemer Pari alai. And Pari said, no, Vayemer Pari. And Pari said, alay, go up. Ukvar es avicha kasher hishpiacha. Go and bury your father as you swore. And now this is a great Rashi. And kasher hishpiacha, as you swore, but were it not for the oath, I would not permit you to go. Pari was afraid to tell him to transgress the oath, because then, however, lest he say, I will transgress the oath that I swore to you. Yosef swore an oath to Pari. So once you start breaking oaths, maybe you'll break the oath that you said to Pari as well. What was the oath? He swore that he would not reveal that I understand the holy tongue in addition to 70 languages of the nations of the world, but you do not understand it. In order to be Pari, you had to be somebody that speaks the most languages. And Yosef had a language that Pari didn't speak. But he had sworn to Pari that he's not going to tell anybody about this deep, dark secret. And if he's going to start breaking his promises, maybe he would break that one also. So Pari said, keep the promise. Vayal Yosef likbar es aviv, and Yosef went up to bury his father. Vayalu itai kol avdei Pharaoh ziknai beisai v'chol ziknai eretz Mitzrayim, and all of Pharaoh's servants, the elders of his house, and the elders of the land of Egypt went up with him. You can imagine this type of procession that went from Egypt all the way to the Maras HaMachpelah. That's quite a travel, I would assume, in those days. V'chol beis Yosef v'echav, and all of Yosef's house and his brothers, ubeis Aviv, and his father's household, beis Aviv rak tapam v'tzainam uvkaram avzu be'eretz Goshen. Only their young children and their flocks and cattle did not leave the land of Goshen. Everybody else went. Vayal imay gam rechav gam parashim vayi amachne kavod ma'id, and the chariots and the horsemen, they also went up with him, and the camp was very numerous. This was a huge procession. Vayavayu ad goyren ha'atok atad asher be'ever ha'yarden vayispdu sham misptei gadol. They came to the threshing floor of the thorn bushes, which is on the other side of the Jordan, and there they conducted a very great and impressive eulogy, and he made for his father a mourning of 7 days. Okay, what does it mean? What does it mean? Threshing floor of the thorn bushes? It was surrounded by thorn bushes. Our rabbis, however, interpreted that it was called the threshing floor of the thorn bushes to commemorate the event when all the people of Canaan and the princes of Yishmael came to fight a war. When they saw Yosef's crown hanging on Yaakov's coffin, they all stood up and hung their own crowns on it and surrounded it with crowns like a threshing floor surrounded by a fence of thorns. Very interesting. Vayar Yeshiv Haaretz HaKnani, and the Canaanite inhabitants of the land saw. And saw Avel begoyren ha'atak vayemru. They saw the mourning that was happening at the threshing floor of the thorn bushes, and they said, Avel kaved zeb leMitzrayim al kain kar shmai avel Mitzrayim asher be'ever hayadin. This is an intense mourning for the Egyptians. Therefore, they named it Abel Mitzrayim, like the Egyptians' mourning, which is on the other side of the Jordan. Vayasu banavlai kain kashar tzivam, and his sons did to him just as he had commanded them. What is this? The next pasuk says, Vayisu Isai, banav arza Canaan, the sons carried him to the land of Canaan, Vayikru Isai b'ma'aretz Machpelah, and they buried him in the cave that's in the field of Machpelah, Shakna Avram, as a sadala achuzas kever me'es Ephraim hachiti al pnei Mamre, which this field was bought. Avram had bought as a burial property from Ephraim the Hittite before Mamre. What does it mean that his sons carried him, but not his grandsons? For so he had commanded them, neither shall any Egyptian carry my coffin, nor any of your sons, for they are born of the daughters of Canaan, but you alone. He designated a position for them by his coffin, so that 3 of them would carry on the east, and so on for all the 4 directions. So there was 3 on each direction, equaling 12. This was similar to the arrangement in the traveling when they in the camp in the desert. The groupings of the tribes of 3 on each side is the same thing as how they carried. Levi did not carry it because his tribe was destined to carry the ark. And Yosef didn't carry because he is a king, but Manasseh and Ephraim carried instead. So it equals 12 because Levi and Yosef are not carrying, but Manasseh and Ephraim were. And that's the same for when they were traveling. Vayashav Yosef in Mitzrayim, Hu ve'echav, and Yosef returned to Mitzrayim like he had said, him and his brothers, v'chol ha'olim itai, and everybody that went with him, likbaris aviv, to bury his father, achri kavreas aviv, after they had been done burying. Vayiru ache Yosef kimes aviem. Now Yosef's brothers saw that their father had died. We'll see what of course they saw. But this is Vayimru loy, and they said, Yistemenu Yosef v'hashav aviv lanu eis kol hara asher gamalnu aisai. Perhaps Yosef will hate us and return to us all the evil that we did to him. They thought, okay, maybe while Yaakov was alive, he was protecting us. But now that he's no longer there, maybe Yosef will take revenge. Let's look at this Rashi. It doesn't mean that they saw. They recognized Jacob's death in Yosef, for they were accustomed to dine at Yosef's table, and he was friendly towards them out of respect for his father. But as soon as Jacob died, he was no longer friendly towards them. So they had actually, apparently, reason to worry about that. Vayitzavu es Yosef lemar, so they commanded messengers to go to Yosef to say, Avicha tziva lifnei Moshe lemar, your father commanded us before his death, saying, Koi tzaimru liyosef, so shall you say to Yosef, Ana sana pesha achecha v'chatasam kira gmalo lucha. Please forgive now your brother's transgressions and their sin. V'ata sana lefesha avdei elikei avicha v'yev Yosef b'dabram elav. For they didn't know even now. Please forgive the transgressions of the servants of the God of your father. Yosef wept when they spoke to him. Vayelchu gam echav, and his brothers also went. Vayiplu lefanam, and they fell before him. Vayemru hinenu lecha la'avadim. Behold, we are your slaves. So in other words, not just did they send messengers, they then went themselves. Vayemru aleim Yosef al tiro. And Yosef said, do not be told them back. Do not be afraid. Ki hasachas elakim ani. For am I instead of God? Am I, look at Rashi, am I perhaps in his place? Like, if I wanted to harm you, would I be able? Did not all of you plan evil against me? And the Holy One, blessed be, however, designed it for the good. So how can I alone harm you? Everything is from Hashem. Ba'atem chashavtem alai ra. Indeed, you intended to do evil against me. Elakim chashva l'teva, but God designed it for good. Lamana seika hayemaza lahachyos rav, in order to bring about what is at present, to keep a great populace alive. So much we can learn from Yosef about forgiveness and compassion and attitude. It's incredible the way he looked at his life and the things that took place in it. All right, let's go to the Tanya today. We're right now at the end of the 10th chapter in Likutei Amarim. We're talking about tzaddikim and Bnei Aliyah. Oh yeah, v'oid nikrayim Bnei Aliyah. At the end of the last Tanya, we mentioned that they're called. What does it mean that the tzaddikim are called Bnei Aliyah? Like the people that ascend, or it's Bnei Aliyah because they make the gashmias, they make the physicality around them ascend. They are reveal the godliness in everything that is around them. So let's go. Bnei Aliyah. Another reason for them being called Bnei Aliyah, Bnei Shekam Avaydosam Bechinas Va'ase Bechinas Va'ase Toiv B'kiyam HaTorah Mitzvahs U'Letzorach Gavoya U'Lemayla Mayla Ad Roima Maylas. Even their divine service in the area of doing good, in their fulfillment of Torah mitzvahs, is for the sake of above, and their service is directed towards a most high level, towards the loftiest heights. Their intent is not just to connect themselves to Hashem, to quench the thirst of their soul, which thirsts for God. Let's look at the note. The divine service of tzaddikim of lower levels may indeed be for the purpose of stilling their thirst for God and their desire to cleave to Him. So it's in a way a selfish thing, like they can't do without it. For indeed, the fulfillment of Torah mitzvahs satisfies those needs. But we're going to see how there can be even a loftier level. All who are thirsty for Hashem, go to the waters. What's Mayim? Mayim Zutayra. Go to the waters of the Torah, as is explained elsewhere. Ella their service, rather their service of God, as it says in Tikkunim, Ezeu Chosid Hamischasid Im Koinai. Who is a pious one? Mischasid, he who is benevolent towards his creator. Im kan delay. Instead of im koinoi, the Zohar interprets it im kan delay. The Tikkun Zohar comments that koinoi, usually translated as his creator, is here to be interpreted as his nest. And thus the chassid is he who is benevolent with his nest, his source, God. This benevolence towards God consists of liyachda, kutchabrichu, ushchintre b'tachtonim, uniting God to the lower worlds. K'moshe kosav b'reya mehemna parshas teitzei, kivora di'ishtadel b'sara vua v'ima, in the manner of a son who exerts himself for his father and mother, derachim yatir migarme, whom he loves more than himself, v'nafshe v'ruche v'nishmase, with his own nefesh, ruach and neshama, u'misar garmei lemisa al yahu lemifrak loin. He sacrifices his life for their sake to redeem them. Okay. Let's go through this. Such is the divine service of the man of ascent. It is wholly altruistic, motivated only by the desire to please God and make his presence felt everywhere. The Alter Rebbe now goes on to explain that the two aforementioned interpretations of the term men of ascents accord with each other and are in fact complementary. So let's go into this, the Kabbalistic of man, which is initials for Mayin Nukvim, the feminine waters, which has a corresponding descent of Mad, which is Mayin Dechurin, which is the masculine waters. Okay, one second. I'm trying to figure out, I'm not 100% sure yet why this is connected to what we're talking about of the Bnei Aliyah. I think maybe we'll see. I think maybe we'll see it as we go. Let's first get to this, and then we'll see hopefully as we go. So in general, we have first the arousal of man, which refers to the feminine level, which is generally the recipient, which in our case means the efforts of man below, which is the recipient of the energies from Hashem. So sometimes this causes a reciprocal arousal of the masculine level, the giver, in our case, God. So let's apply this to the service of man of a sense. We find the following. That aspect of their servants mentioned in the first interpretation, that they elevate evil and convert it to good, constitutes an ascent of man. It's a way of the feminine basically coming from below above. The aspect mentioned in the second interpretation, that by their service of love they draw down God's presence upon earth, constitutes a descent of Mad. For every mitzvah that they perform is an expression of God's benevolence. Thus, the two interpretations are complementary, since the ascent of Man is what causes the descent of Mad, as stated above. Okay. Interesting. Okay. So basically, we gave two interpretations of what it's doing. Either we're uplifting or we're bringing down. Uplifting Gashmias, in ascending Gashmias, or we're bringing down God's energy. But so it sounds like these two things are two separate things, but really they're connected. Because when does the quote unquote masculine level get aroused? It gets, when does God get aroused to come down to this world, or to show love to this world? When we first, when we initiate it with man, with the when we initiate as the recipients, we initiate. Like the first thing we ascend, we bring up the Gashmias. When we do our part, it mirrors what Hashem is going to do. Okay, let's continue into the Tanya. Both interpretations are complementary to each other. Through uplifting, that when we are refining Klippas Neiga, we are uplifting, we're elevating Man, the feminine waters. And this affects the higher realms to cause the Mayin Dechurim, the masculine waters. Remember, masculine is the giver, and generally speaking, and feminine is the receiver, and we're the receivers of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's giving. So, what arouses that the Mayim Dechurim, that the masculine waters should come down? That's when the Mayim Nukvim, that's when we uplift, that affects it. Shehem heim mimei hachasadim. These masculine waters are the waters of kindness. Shebachol mitzvah meramach mitzvahs aseh. These are from every mitzvah of the 248 positive mitzvahs. Shekulam heim mechinas chasadim u'mayim dechurim. These are all kindness, and these are the masculine waters. The hainu hamshachas kedushas elahusa yisparach milamayla lamata. The term masculine waters is talking about drawing God's holiness from above down below. To come down into this world, as will be explained in another place. The Tehillim for today are chapters 83 to 87. It was a pleasure to fill in today for Rabbi Bookit. I believe he will be back on Sunday, ready to go for the continuation. I wish everybody a wonderful, wonderful Shabbos.